We the people of the state of Jefferson, ever mindful of the rights we hold most dear, life, liberty, and property, are compelled to establish this, our new state, for the preservation of these natural inalienable rights. Our mandate for the protection of life, liberty, and property gives urgent voice to our demand for representation that reflects our needs, our history, our culture, and our moral imperfectitude. Time has come for 51. This is Terry Rapoza.
And Win Carpenter. You're listening to Jefferson State of Mind podcast.
Welcome, everybody.
Good morning.
This is Terry Rapoza and Win Carpenter. How are you all this morning?
Bright-eyed.
Oh, you can't answer.
Bright-eyed and bushy-tailed, I'm assuming.
Anyway, we are here in the great state of Jefferson. We've got a program today. My friend and partner here, Win Carpenter, had some really great thoughts this morning, and I think it's very pertinent to everything that we want to that we want to establish in Jefferson and establish in our country. And so with that, I'm going to turn it over to my buddy. Go ahead, bud.
Well, we just want to find out if everybody's done, if their line in the sand has been drawn. If so, has it been crossed? And if it's been crossed, why was that tolerated? Why was that allowed by we, the sovereign citizens of America, period? So, whittle it down from not just we, the citizens of America, but also down to our local jurisdiction, all the way from the federal part of it, to the state part of it, to the county part of it, to your city or your community, and your township, wherever you may live. So we need to stand up, we need to fight, and we need to not be fearful. We have to be fearless, because everything that's happened to us is because we allowed somebody else to do it. We have been, I don't know, for the lack of a better term, and I don't mean this disrespectfully, but we've been dumbed down. We don't know what our rights are. We don't know all these other things that we need to keep in place. And to run our communities for ourselves and for our children and grandchildren and just neighbors, you know? I mean, if you can't protect your own homestead, your home site, how are you expected your neighbor to do the same? And if they need help where you can help them or vice versa, how is this going to work? It won't. So now we need to step up to the plate and do what we need to do, be civically minded, and run what we know to be our federal constitution, our state constitution. We need to use it. It's the rule book. It's the playbook for how we are supposed to live in our country. And no deviation from it. Truly, no deviation. We can't allow the politicians who are in place that are getting their own palms greased and making bankroll off of we, the taxpayers, over and over and over again to continue to do that. They should be able to serve their term and be gone. Everybody, all the time, rotating people in these offices that are elected. We need to rotate them in and out. And I know everybody's going to scream and yell about the machines. Well, then don't allow the machines to be used. Let's use paper ballots. For heaven's sake, they used to use paper ballots, and guess what? We knew in a timely fashion what the outcome was. And we knew in a timely fashion that we could go back through and audit those, whether they had hanging chads or not. We could go back through and audit those very easily, because it wasn't just a strike of a key or a program that's created to manipulate the numbers. It was actual tangible information that you could hold, you could look at, and you could even smell the paper that it's punched on or marked on. We need to get back to that. And just because everything is high tech doesn't mean it's going to be more appropriate and more user friendly for us to be using. Maybe you missed that election. Sorry, but that's the way it works. If you travel for your job, maybe there are exceptions there, but for everything to be forced to be absentee ballot or mail-in ballot, however you want to put it, that can't be. Because that's the problem we're in now. They've used it and abused it to manipulate it, to make it to they, meaning the criminals in power, to create this mess that we're in. So we need to step up, and we need to get all these things corrected. That's where I'm headed.
Yeah, and I couldn't agree with you more. You look at what's going on in our country, our state, our counties, and the people who are in office are so involved in a social contract, they don't understand what they really did do, and that's they took an oath to a contract that was created by the states, the Constitution of the United States, which is actually a compact.
And a lot of them, all they see it as just a formality. Oh, yeah, I'm just doing it because I'm going through the motions. That's the first abuse of power when they do that and they don't honor it. That is the first abuse of power.
That's right.
And so right out of the gate, if they're not going to honor the Constitution, and you know, they take an oath, they have whether the Constitution is there or they put their hand on the Bible and swear to uphold the oath, and they don't, they should be gone.
Yeah, you know, we do a radio program on KCNR 1460. You can get there by KCNR1460.com. It's Jefferson State of Mind, MINE, same as this program here we do on Mountaintop Media. You know, and the idea, in fact, we do multiple things. We cross-pollinate quite a bit with a lot of the shows on this particular, on Mountaintop Media and on KCNR with that, or any other radio outlet we can have, or any other source of media we can have. And that takes time. And I know a lot of people say, well, you know, I work, I've got kids, I haven't got time. I just don't have time. I can't do it, I haven't got time. You know, you have to make the time. Priority. I mean, right now, if we don't start pulling this back together, I'm really not sure how much more time we have in our liberty. I heard this morning that Joe Biden's approval rating is now down to 38%. You know, and it's probably lower than that. You know, when you look at what's going on with our country overall, and a lot of us hear about what's going on in Washington, what's going on in the government of the United States, what's going on federally. Hey, what's going on in your county? What's going on in your city? That's what really will affect you.
Right. We have 3,600 plus counties throughout the country. You know, if we all got together or just started doing our work in our own county, we could turn this around. We have 58 counties in the state of California. California is way too big to govern. That's proven over and over and over again. Way too big. Initially, when California became a state, they were going to split it and make it into multiple states. But for time and for assurance of getting it done, they just opted just to create one state, and they were going to split it later. Well, later has come. Later is now. We need to split the state, and we can use the Article 4, Section 3 state split process to do so. Now, there are parts of that process that are going to be hurdles that we're going to have to deal with. However, we can do it, and we just need to get this expedited. We need to get it going so that we can break off from California, because we have different needs in the North State. And when I'm talking about North State, I'm talking, 3 hours north of Sacramento, nowhere near San Francisco. We're in the true North State of California, and there are 23 counties up here that want to split from the state. They've filed and signed declarations with the state. They've been filed with them, and we know that, and we've got copies of it. They're all stamped and dated as received, so we have proof that we've done that. We need to split from the state. We need to move on so that we can create a better state than what we currently live in as Californians, because a lot of us think like Jeffersonians versus Californians, because California has taken us down the slop chute over and over and over again. Now, with a new state created, we could start with a clean slate and would be on the same platform and with the equal footing doctrine as the first 13 states. A lot of things would apply to that new state that don't apply to us as Californians, because our territory or our counties as Californians have been so bastardized by all the things that have happened to us that our politicians have sold out to and greased their palms and made bank off doing it. They pimped us out, basically.
Well, we don't really own anything.
We don't
own our property, really. I mean, try not paying your taxes.
Yeah.
And it's a very good point you make about everything you said here. It all boils down to representation.
Right.
And it's a great point you made about the machines. Really and truly, if complaining about it doesn't get it done.
Nope.
And there's no way of fixing California. I'll just say it. There is absolutely no.
So they should do that. They should split. They, meaning us, we Californians. We should split it into multiple states. That makes it more usable for the different areas that California has. We have lots of rural lands. We have we have many major cities. Or a few major cities anyway. Those things, they're different needs, different likes, different mindsets in those two different territories. So we need to make that happen, and we need to do it sooner than later. And when we get it done, just think how well the West Coast will thrive for all kinds of things because everything's being done locally. It's being managed locally. It's being governed locally. And there's accountability by your governing bodies by their to their constituents. And that's the biggest thing right there. So when you break it down, it could be a beautiful thing for this whole process to take place.
Yeah.
We know in the territory of Jefferson, it would be a great thing. We know that. We've done all the homework.
Yep.
We've done all the studies. We've got all the documentation to prove it. We've got all these things in place. And a lot of it's from information from the government itself stating what could happen and how it could happen. The government itself of the California and even the federal government, we have those documents. We have proof that it could work and work very well. And then people wouldn't have to abandon the state to move to any other number of states just to get out from under the tyrannical rule of California.
You're absolutely right, And as we look at the counties and the different needs, when that's a great example of what you just said, as far as the northern counties have certain needs, the Central Valley has certain needs, the southern counties have certain needs, urban and rural. And there's no way to take all that one size fits all doesn't work.
Right.
And frankly, we have come up with a constitution. This constitution is out for people to look at. This constitution was finally put together. It's the opening document we will have when we get to statehood.
Right.
Now, can things be changed? Absolutely. Amendment is not a bad word. Amendment, in fact, is at times a good word.
Well, until it's ratified.
That's right.
It has to be ratified by the counties within the state.
That's exactly right.
Right. So when we do go through the process of statehood split, new statehood creation, I guess, out of an existing state, splitting from California, that's when all these things start happening.
Yes.
There will be committees that do that, and it will be voted on by the people of said counties that are looking to split from California. They will create their committees from each county, and things will happen that way. It'll all be done locally, and that's the whole thing. That's the process we need to go through. We'll be talking, it'll talk about everything that the Constitution has outlined in it right now, and you're right. There may be things that'll be amended, things added to it, deleted, what have you. Just all kinds of things, but it's a great place to start, and it's a clean document. So far, it's clean, and it looks good, but we do know, as creating it, we do know that those two things could happen. It could be amended or deleted, depending on what's going on. It'll be amended either way. So we know that that'll happen before ratification.
Right. And that the word that keeps coming up is counties. And the idea is to give the lion's share of the control of the counties, Right. What you have to do is you have to make sure that the counties are getting their fair share of the money, of their tax money,
right,
to do the different things they need to do, whether it be health, safety, whether it be infrastructure, no matter what it is. Right now, there's two different ways your money is being used, your tax money. There's discretionary spending and there's mandatory spending. Mandatory spending comes down from the state of California. You get your money back after you pay your taxes. 87% in most of the counties is dictated by the state for its use. So you have around 13 to maybe 15% that you can use in your county for all the different needs that we have to have. That includes police, fire. That is all discretionary spending. So I guess the best way to explain that is that mandatory spending is the fact that you need to be able to eat food and put clothes on your kids. But discretionary spending is, we need to go out and have a pizza and watch a movie. Well, I would say that police and fire are not pizza in a movie.
Right.
And so I think that we have everything backwards in California. They control everything. Not to say that usually whenever the money goes to them, they charge an administration fee. That can be 14%.
Well, and the big thing, too, is that each county within California, they collect the taxes that are generated within their county. Then they send all of it to Sacramento, and they're charged a transfer fee from their county to Sacramento to accept the money that they've generated to send it to California, to the state. The state does their infinite wisdom of putting it in the blender, spinning it around, blah, 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 blah. Then they shoot it out back to the said county, charging them another transfer fee. And then they have these strings attached, like you said, the discretionary part of it. Well, how about if we flip it on its ear and do the exact opposite?
Right.
We keep all the money in the county, and then whatever might be left over, if any, and not to exceed a certain percentage, could go to California for California to operate. Then things would be turned around. things would be fixed. Things would be resolved in the said counties. The counties wouldn't be so poor. You know, all these counties that are labeled as poor counties, you know, these, I don't know, they just give them all kinds of names. And anyway, just being a poor county, they wouldn't be poor. They would be able to fix, like you said, all the things that need to be fixed, infrastructure, health and police and safety and all that kind of stuff. And especially for us in the rural counties where we have timber, where we always have fire. Every year there's a fire season. It starts in April and goes until October, or through October.
Or through October, yeah.
Through October. And like it did this year, it's just over and over and over again. It didn't used to be that way. Growing up here, I'm seventh generation Shasta County. It did not used to be that way. Growing up where I grew up in the hills, it wasn't like that. And coming from a logging family, it wasn't like that at all. And I've worked out in the woods and whatnot when I was growing up and in my younger years. I was able to do that, and that didn't happen. And if there was a fire, say on a landing site for logging and whatnot, who do you think put it out? The guys working there.
That's
they put it out. They had the equipment to do it, and they jumped on it, and they got it taken care of. Whether it was to fall a tree, if it was a lightning strike, they would fall that tree and dust it with dirt with all the equipment they had there. They would do whatever needed to be done, and that because number one, it was going to burn up what they were trying to harvest,
right,
and clear and clean, and or it could ruin their equipment and it could kill them.
Right.
So you don't think they're going to be out there taking care of business? They would, absolutely, every time. And then, those are the kind of things that we're looking at just from that perspective.
Yeah.
Just from that perspective.
And all those things can't be changed in California the way it is because, first of all, the state's never going to relinquish, flip the tables and say, okay, we'll only take 13 or 17% at the most, and we'll give you the rest of it. They're never going to do that. They're never going to not have control of that. Also, the apportionment. I mean, the whole thing about the apportionment, about being represented. How in the hell can you be represented by 80 assemblymen and 40 senators? It's impossible.
You can't.
It's impossible.
Well, and that's what you said before. You had the analogy of the judges. How many judges did the state start with when it was 400,000 people?
About 50.
That was for 400,000 people in the entire state when it was created. So we had 50 judges then, and now we have 2,500 plus?
Yeah.
Okay. So if those bodies can, and the account of judges can grow, why on earth did not the legislature? Because if we're at 120 with the legislature when it started at 400,000, and now we're 40 million, we kind of teeter back and forth on that, but roughly 40 million, and we're still at 120.
Yeah.
What the heck? I mean, how does our assemblyman deal with 500,000 people, and then how does a senator deal with 1 million? They cannot. They won't. We haven't seen either one of them in our county for probably 2 years now, a year and a half at least.
A year and a half, I'd say, easily.
Yeah, year and a half.
And well, the last election we saw him.
Yes, that's the only time you ever see them. They come in and they suck it up knowing that they're going to be asked questions, and they try to muddle through, and they do a piss poor job, to put it bluntly.
Well, the other thing is, too, it gets back to what you talked about initially, getting engaged and getting involved. When people aren't involved in their government, then they're ignorant. Not stupid, but they're ignorant.
Right.
And they choose to be ignorant. Oh, let them just do it. Gosh, we have a government for that. Well, no, we don't. We are the government.
We are the government. And the body of the people is.
Right.
Yes.
And the problem is the fact that we just allow these guys to do whatever they want to do. They get into office. It's all about them creating an environment that they'll never have to leave. I mean, how long has Biden been in? Like 50 years? I mean, how long has Jim Nielsen been in? He's a Republican. I mean, I can't remember the last time he was not in office. I think,
and they move around
they move around. You go from assembly to senator, back to assembly.
And then when the lines change, they shift gears and they go to different areas.
Yes.
Yeah, because he used to be ours, and he's not.
No.
Now he moved. He's a district south of us.
Actually, he never moved. He just is actually claiming the home he always had.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. See, that's the problem, too. How does this work where, you have representatives that don't live in your area? I mean, perfect case in point. We've got Maxine Waters down in Southern California. She doesn't live in her area, but they still elect her in or vote her in. How does that work? Is it manipulation by the system? I would say it would be.
Absolutely. We're going to start a series on the Jefferson Constitution. Janet Chandler, who we affectionately call the mother of Jefferson, she is going to be here hopefully on our next podcast, and we'll start probably a 3 or 4 part series with her talking about the Constitution of Jefferson. There's so many unique and good things there, but it all breaks down to that county. It all breaks down to the county level. Always has, always will. It always breaks down to where home is.
Right.
And, you know, right now, the counties are basically a microcosm of a corrupt, inefficient, overreaching, tyrannical government. Yep. And that's exactly where we are right now in our society even. You know, look at the school teachers. They're all rising up, these great young people that are rising up saying, no, we won't take this anymore. I mean, unbelievable things. This, you know, the whole thing with the, you know, with the COVID jab and all the different things that are going on medically. We had a podcast here, I believe it was a couple of days ago, that a young teacher got together with 4 doctors and did a great podcast. I think it's a couple hours long. You can get it here on Mountaintop Media, I think. Yes? Okay, the audio of that will be up soon. The video is being edited. He did tell us that yesterday.
Yeah, he did tell us that.
Because we interviewed them yesterday. So he did tell us that yesterday. But I mean, you know, that's the thing. Doctors are standing up. Teachers are standing up. We have our government. Locally. And in a lot of places.
Locally, yes.
And that's the thing. We have to start gravitating together. You can't say anymore, I don't have the time, or, you know, I'm busy. I'm so busy. Well, you may be busy doing what?
Right.
Muddling through something that could all be taken away from you, if it's not taken from you already.
Right. And that's the hard part, too, is that, you know, a lot of people that are, people are either they work for someone or they work for themselves or they work for the government, which is someone. So they're either working for somebody else or they're working for themselves, which in a sense is working for somebody else because you're counting on your customer base. So those things that you may hold dear and know that, okay, yeah, you're doing great right now and all these things happen. But what happens when all the rest of your clientele or your employer, they go away? Then what happens with you? What happens for you? What happens? Where do you go? What do you do? Mm-hmm. How do you put food on the table? How do you pay your mortgage? How do you do any of the things that you know you need to do? How do you enjoy the luxuries that you're busy doing that you're not out fighting the fight to get this done? And that's the hard part too, is that, you know, a lot of people, they're fearful, and I get that. I've been fearful for a long time, but that's what's driven me to do what I do and to keep things going, because I'm doing it for my children and my future grandchildren. This is what I'm doing it for. Am I doing it for myself? Well, hopefully I'll enjoy the benefit of it, and live long enough to see it. But I'm hopefully I am doing it for my children and my future grandchildren. That's what I'm doing it for. And I'm doing it for my fellow neighbors and my relatives and my friends and even my enemies. I don't know of any that I have for sure, but maybe they know that I'm an enemy, but I don't know of any. But I'm doing it for them as well, because we all have to do it. We're doing it for everyone. And so if you're not willing to do it, then you can't complain about it. And you're going to end up being the first person in line for the free cheese that they hand out with strings attached, whatever those strings might be. So you need to step up and fight the fight. There are many of us out there. There are a lot of really good people doing this, that are out there working and doing all kinds of things. You know, some people say, well, I can't do anything. Well, what's your experiences? What are your talents? What are your desires? There's always something to be done, always. And people surprise themselves when they find out, oh, I could do this and make it work. Yes, you can. You know, there's just a lot of different things that can work for all of us if others would step up. And that's what we're looking at. It's numbers. It's a numbers game. And we have to get more bodies out there doing the things that we've been doing and more things that we haven't yet done. So we need to get these things going.
There's a lot of people that are in different groups. The Freedom Coalition is one that comes to mind, where folks are getting together and they're dividing up into groups, whether it be about their community, their government, the school system, education, religion, you know. And I think that one of the things that really comes to light is that we always talk about the moral majority. We always talk about the moral majority, but we have to have churches and pastors that are willing to stand. Are we as far along as the Revolutionary War? At the time of that, are we that far along? Well, you know, it was, there were nowhere near the grievances then that there is now. Right. You know, and as far as illegal searches and seizures, I mean, that happens all the time.
Right.
That happens all the time. I mean, you have people like the IRS that have their own basic SWAT team. You have people like the OSHA, all these different organizations, and that brings me to another point. OSHA could be used to enforce the vaccination situation that we have as far as the businesses. And OSHA could be used to enforce that on the fines of the people who own the businesses if, in fact, they're not following the vaccine mandate of having their employees vaccinated.
What's their jurisdiction?
There is no jurisdiction, but they're an agency, an arm of the executive branch. Again, it's so skewed, it's so screwed up.
But there's no law
legislation,
no lawmaking ability in the executive branch.
No. But try to fight them on that. Try to fight them on that fine. Now, here's the thing that you want to ask yourself. Then I'll get back to the churches, but you just brought something to mind. Does the sheriff intervene in a business where OSHA goes in and demands a fine, demands this, demands that of a business, say a car dealership that may have 30, 40 people that work for them? Now, can the sheriff intervene in that?
Absolutely.
Should he intervene in that?
Absolutely. It's his constituency that he needs to protect.
Well, the way that most of the sheriffs are framing this is that they won't enforce any of this stuff. Well, it's not a matter of enforcing something. It's a matter of stopping something that is illegal.
Right. Absolutely. They need to. They need to man up, woman up, whatever, step up and do the right thing and say, not on my turf. No way. It's his entire county that he represents. So everybody that lives in this county are his constituents. And they need to step up and they need to protect and interpose between the government, the tyrannical government, and his sovereign citizens of his said county.
That's his job. I mean, that's the only job of government, is to protect the rights of the sovereign.
Right.
And, again, we go back to the oath. We go back to the oath affirmation of the Constitution.
And if they don't, get rid of them. If they don't or won't, they can't speak to it, if they're not going to speak to it, say that I'm going to do it, if they give you some pussyfoot excuse for not doing it, they're right there. They're telling you that they are not going to do it. And guess what? Their next election, they're out. Or if you need to do a recall because they just got elected in, then you do a recall. Whatever it takes, you get those people taken care of. You make sure they understand the pain of being eliminated. And I mean that in a political sense, but you get rid of them. You get them out of office. You step up and you get them out of office. That's what you have to do because their only job, like you just mentioned, is to protect the rights of the sovereign citizens of their said county. That's their only job.
Well, I know that when we've talked to the sheriffs, that at least the sheriffs that I've talked to, it's been, if they try to make us enforce it, meaning law enforcement enforce it, we won't do it. That doesn't mean anything. That's not what you're there for.
No.
Especially as the sheriff, that's not what you're there for. If you're a police chief, that's a little different. You're in an appointed position. You work for the city manager in whatever city you work in.
Right.
But a sheriff's a whole different deal. And to me, I think the discouraging part is the fact that we keep talking about, and I know I've harped on this a lot, but we keep talking about the term constitutional sheriff. Every sheriff should be constitutional. They take an oath to it.
They swear to two constitutions.
That's exactly right, my friend.
Two constitutions.
The federal and state. That's right.
Federal and state. So that you swear to your state, and in our case in California, it clearly states in the Constitution of California that the federal Constitution is the supreme law of the land. It doesn't say supreme suggestion. It doesn't say supreme rule, supreme mandate. It says the supreme law of the land.
Yeah.
And that's talking about the land of our country.
Yes.
And our county is part of that. Therefore, they need to operate within that guideline, and that true rule is the Constitution. So if they're not going to be operating with the Constitution, they are not constitutional.
Well,
and therefore, it goes back to me saying, get rid of them, vote them out, recall them, whatever you have to do.
Well, see, here's the other problem we have. We go back to the uninformed voter. The uninformed voter will say, well, that sheriff seems like he's a pretty good guy. He's been okay. He hasn't really rocked the boat. I really don't have time. Oh, well, we have to do this. We have to do that. Blah, 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 blah. And they're not being engaged. Now, saying that, We're seeing more and more people that are waking up. Do we need everybody? Do we need a whole bunch of people? We need a whole bunch of people, but there's people like Mike Ware in Glenn County. He stood up and started something. He got it going. There's people like Lori Harris in Butte County. She stood up. She got something going. You know, there's people like in Shasta County, you know, Alyssa McEwen, Carlos Zapata. I can, you know, gazillion of them that stood up
over and over again. Yeah.
That stood up and said, no, enough is enough, and stood there. Yet the sheriffs have been lily-livered, with the exception of, and I heard this on a term, I don't remember where I heard it. It could have been, was one particular radio program I was listening to, and I don't remember whether it was, is it Bongino?
Dan Bongino?
Yeah, it might have been him. But I thought it was really a good term that right now that sheriffs and police officers in a lot of cases practice political law. In other words, it's almost like you're politically being the political arrest and the political position of what a DA can do to you on a political basis is worse, using that as the crime. You know, in this county, our district attorney spent probably close to $1 million on a trial of Carlos Zapata that basically was a low-level misdemeanor that even could have been a lower level than a traffic ticket.
Is that the only low-level misdemeanor that's ever gone to trial like that?
As far as I know, it is.
That's good information to know, isn't it?
Yeah, as far as I know, it is. Now, there might be people who can prove that wrong, but as far as I've seen, that's it. Now, not only that, but why did she lower when Leonard Modi, who's a supervisor in Shasta County, of course, went on the news, went on every media you can think of, and explained to people that when we had the car fire, not to go behind the lines, not to bother any of the first responders, any of the folks working out there, the sheriff, the police, the fire department, anybody. Don't go past those lines, or you will be arrested.
Right.
You will be in trouble. You will be arrested. Yet he used his authority to go behind the lines with the sheriff, at the time, the undersheriff, and went behind the lines to check on his home while other homes burned. And
made sure he put gas in the generator to keep things going in his home.
And even got wine, got his expensive wine.
Expensive bottles of wine out of his house.
You know, I mean, it's unbelievable to see that this guy did that. Now, the grand jury found him guilty of misfeasance. Well, I know I talked to an attorney. He had to look it up. Everybody has to look up. What does that mean? A misfeasance is malfeasance.
Yeah.
He used his authority to break the law and did it on multiple occasions for his own gain.
Right.
Now, that's a crime. That's a big crime. Yeah.
Using his power of his office
to do it.
And having been a former law enforcement officer.
Police chief
of the city of Reading. So he knows there is no excuse for that to happen. He knows beyond the rule of law that he should not have done that. He knows that.
And why did the DA lower it to a misfeasance?
Did she do the same thing?
Did the DA do something the DA did, or did the DA in fact do that? I would submit to you that who else would do it?
I don't know.
So if it's the DA, what did she? What? See, the whole thing is that we look at a corruption level that's unbelievable. You know, we have seen that there's been certain times when different people have been, just for using their First Amendment right of free speech, their right to redress grievances, they have been subject to being banned from social media.
Right.
I mean, even Donald Trump. I mean, we've had that happen to us. Probably will happen again. But the point is that just by speaking the truth or giving an opinion, we're not talking about crass language. We're not talking about anything that's derogatory as far as a threat.
Right.
That never comes out of this. But because of what's happening in our country, folks, if we don't stand up now, we're done.
Yep.
And I will submit to you, I'm just going to say it, I think we probably have till March of next year. I don't think we've got too much longer. I know that we have a bunch of people out there going, oh, we can do a class action suit. It'll only take us 5 years, you know.
Lawsuits don't do anything.
We haven't got 5 years.
Lawsuits do not do anything because you're always at the mercy of the judges who were paid by the state. Do they not get that? Hello, folks.
So whose money do they receive?
They use our money. They use our tax money.
And then what money do we use to fight them?
We hold fundraisers. We hold fundraisers to generate money.
We're paying for all of it.
We're paying for all of it. We're paying to be fought, and we're paying to fight. So I don't get it. people, we can't do that. And if these people that are in power, meaning holding political offices, if they're doing something illegal, arrest them. Don't take them to court. Court is a waste of your time, money, effort, energy, and frustration. And it will just bring you down. If they truly are doing illegal acts and you have proof of that, and you can cite it and you can document it and you have proof of it, good solid proof, then by golly, arrest them. Remove them from office for violating their oath. Do that daily.
We talked a little bit about the Carlos Zapata trial, which is just, it's still, I mean, it's hard for me to say that, a low-level misdemeanor. I mean, jaywalking. Under United States Code, Title 18, Section 242, acts under color of law include acts not only done by the state or local officials within the bounds or limits of their lawful authority, but also acts done without and beyond their lawful authority, which one of those things could be going behind the lines of the car fire, breaking the law, going back, checking on your home, using your authority to do something that your authority doesn't have jurisdiction over, and for your own personal gain. Mm-hmm. Provided that in order for unlawful acts of any official to be done under the color of any law, the unlawful acts must be done while such official is purporting or pretending to act in the performance of his or her official duties. Now, This is a question. Leonard Modi reached out to Nathan Blaze as a sitting supervisor to assist him, support him in a situation where Modi determined, or did he determine, or could it be looked at that he determined that Carlos Zapata is guilty of a crime? Because apparently this was what the battery silly charge was about water being spilled on Nathan, even though Nathan had a gun.
That's right.
But anyway, getting back to this, you look at all this, and you wonder, basically, with Modi reaching out, and he did this, and it was public knowledge, it was in the paper, et cetera. He did it as a sitting supervisor. It was not Leonard Modi, his friend, Leonard Modi, his good old boy. It was Leonard Modi, Supervisor Modi. So he supported him in a situation where Modi could be perceived as determining Carlos Zapata is guilty of a crime. Therefore, Modi is using his authority as a former police chief, supervisor, and specifically could have harmed, in people's opinion, Carlos Zapata, because Modi didn't reach out as citizen Modi, he reached out as supervisor Modi, using his authority, influencing due process, in people's opinion, of Carlos Zapata, because he reached out to help Nathan Blaze, who wasn't even a constituent of his in his particular district, to write a restraining order. Now, why did he do that?
Because then, with a restraining order, weapons can be removed.
And on top of that,
limiting access and mobility.
Why would he do that? Why is he even involved in that? Well, let's see, because maybe we were trying to and have successfully made a recall.
Yeah.
And so that's the thing.
Which is going to be voted on February 1st.
It will be. February
1st of 2022. Couple months here coming up. What, 2.5 months? 2 months. No, less than 2 months. Yeah, so he's going to be removed from office by the people who vote for that to happen in District 2 of Shasta County.
And if it's similar to the way it was done as far as the governor, Governor Newsom, if it's similar to that, then on one side you're going to have a vote. Do you wish to recall this person, yes or no?
Right, mark yes.
But you mark yes, recall them.
Recall.
But you got to flip it over.
And then you look at the other side.
And then you look at the other side, and that's who you pick.
And then you pick who you want to replace him with.
I think a lot of people didn't flip that thing over.
Could be.
And they just voted either yes or no, but it didn't matter because you didn't flip it over for the new guy.
Right.
If you don't vote for a new guy.
Well, and two, whoever is the greatest number of vote gets, person who receives the most votes, I guess I should say.
Yeah.
Whether they beat the next person in line by 1 doesn't matter. They are still the winner. It's not a 50%. They don't have to have a percentage of or what have you of the total votes. Whoever gets the most votes in that district on that particular election on that ballot is the winner. And so that's what's going to happen here locally in Shasta County on February 1st of 2022. Less than 2 months.
I wonder if we were talking about Title 18 code section.
No, it's more than 2 months. Sorry.
What's that, buddy?
We have all of December, all of January, so it's going to be 2 months plus. Sorry about that. My numbers went out the window here.
That's all right.
Yeah, sorry.
But
2.5 months-ish.
Pretty much, yeah. 2.5. You're pretty close, my friend. Yeah. I mean, that's pretty close. It is what, the 8th today or 9th today?
Yes, 8th.
It is November, isn't it?
It is November, yes. November 8th, yes.
So, when you look at Title 18 Code Section 242, that is pretty interesting because Modi also, under the color of law, could be construed, could be looked at as under the color of law, got the sheriff's department and law enforcement to take him behind the car fire lines for his own personal gain. Could be. Ruh-roh. But the whole thing of the restraining order with Nathan Blaze, to me, okay, you're just some good Samaritan. Well, if you're a good Samaritan, you don't come out as Supervisor Modi. Well, you don't use your official capacity because that is using your official capacity in an unlawful manner in a lot of people's opinion.
Why wouldn't he treat both of them equally? Because if neither one of them are constituents, then you would treat both of them equally. Therefore, you shouldn't even have done anything.
Why would you do anything?
Right. Yeah, the big question is, why is he doing it? Oh, because they were already using a nonprofit. Well, is it a nonprofit? Their funding source for fighting the recall. I can't remember what they call it. Shasta Forward?
Shasta Forward, yes.
Yeah, Shasta Forward. So they already had a PAC, if you will. Yeah. They already had a PAC in place.
Yeah.
So by doing that, he's putting that out there, and they're part of this PAC.
And he's part of it.
He's part of it. And
wow.
So are the others that are being recalled. And so they're trying to gain money to fight this recall. Why don't they put their own money up? Clearly, they can all afford it. Clearly. We know they can afford it. And all we have to do is look at the, Form 701s and just kind of see what's going on, because those are for public consumption. They're out there. You can look it up.
And a lot of people may be saying, well, that's Shasta County. No, that's your county.
It's every county.
It's every county. Every county you look at has
3,600 plus counties in the country.
And there's corruption everywhere.
Right. Not every county is, but we definitely are feeling the pain of it here in California.
I would say in California.
California. Oh,
and frankly.
What county isn't in California?
You've got to look at that.
Right. Which county? I challenge anybody. Give us a county that isn't corrupt in California. Just tell us which one it is. And then we'll model everything after that.
Yeah. It's just
Show us where it is.
This local state of emergency. From what I understand, at least I heard this from Mike Ware in Glenn County. Glenn County did rescind their local state of emergency. Mm-hmm. And, there again, an emergency only can be, the definition of it is that the threat overwhelms the county resources.
How long did it take them to do that? When did they do that? How long did it take that county to rescind?
He told me the month, my friend, and I don't remember. I want to say March of last year, but I don't know.
Of 2020 or 2021?
Yeah, that can't be right. Oh.
21. It'd have to be 21 because it all started.
It was 21.
Yeah, okay.
Yes.
So they essentially went a year with
I think that's
the
what
chaos.
He told me, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so they're probably one of the few, if any, that did it. Okay. Well, God bless them for doing it.
And then, you look at where, the jurisdiction of the county goes. We keep being told by our public officials, I shouldn't even call them that. They're certainly not public servants. Our public bureaucrats. We shouldn't.
Public employees.
They don't think they're employees.
They're employed by us. Yep.
Hey, how come they get these nice, cushy, soft chairs to sit in these meetings?
Yep.
And we, as their employers, have to walk up to a podium and stand there at the podium to address them.
Yep.
Like serfs to the king.
It's done by design.
You think?
I do. Why aren't they sitting down in chairs in front of that dais that they have sitting up there? Are they trying to be kingly up there? When they built this structure, for us to have them, because we have a fairly modern building there. It's only probably, it might be 20 years old now, maybe close to that, 15, 20 years old, something like that.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a fairly modern building. So why aren't they just sitting in chairs in front of us? or sitting in chairs with us. What are they afraid of? I mean, heck, they were clearly afraid of catching the cooties months ago when they had that plexiglass up and they're muzzled.
What did that cost us? $9,000?
$9,000 just for plexiglass to be created and installed. And then how much did it cost to take down?
Right.
And what did they do with the plexiglass after that?
And did your county do that out there in America?
Are they still doing it?
Are they still doing it? Hey, wasn't that great what happened in Virginia?
Yes. Yes. And you know what? I support what the vice president said. She said, however Virginia goes is the rest of the nation. She was so right about that. Guess what? Challenge accepted. Challenge accepted. Needs to happen.
Yeah, it does.
And you need to do forensic audits on every single election in your county. Every county.
And department.
And if things are shaky, you get rid of those people that are in power or overseeing that elections department. If things are out of whack or off color, things are missing, do a forensic audit. It has to happen. If you don't do a forensic audit and find out what the problems are, how can you fix it? How can you know that you can trust it? You can't. It has to be it has to have a forensic audit. It just absolutely does.
And a zero-based budget.
And then your whole budget for your county needs to have a forensic audit as well.
Right.
Zero-based budget, absolutely. It has to happen. And if you can't live within the means of the money that's created within your county, and you're counting on the state to give you money, which isn't the state's money, it's your money, go back to what we talked about earlier here.
In the state of Jefferson.
Keep the money in your county. Mm-hmm. And then whatever you see fit to send to the state, then you send that to them, and then the state learns to live within their budget.
And what we're doing now is we're sending it into the state for CARB. We're sending it in there for OSHA. All these
bureaucracies that are created.
Tyrannical bureaucracies.
And they're not even voted on by the public.
And there's no getting to them. There's no accountability to the public.
Because they too set up in a dais, up above the people that, they're serfs that come in to speak to them, and they allow them to speak if they want to allow them to speak.
How did we get here, man?
I don't know. We're just going back to
apathy.
Kingly way of running things.
That's right. Apathy. That's how we got here.
That's how our country was started. Yep. We got tired of all the garbage and all the stuff that was going on and the tyrannical ways of being ruled, if you will. And we fought for that. We had our ancestors died for this to happen. They gave us, they had the ultimate sacrifice for us to have this sovereign country and our sovereign states and our sovereign counties and our sovereign cities and townships and communities. They gave that to us through blood shed. And we're going to just, for the lack of a better term, piss it away and let it go? Are you kidding? Can you imagine standing before your forefathers that died in the wars and fought in the wars and that were injured in the wars, and the women, your grandmothers, great-grandmothers, whoever, all the generations before you? Can you imagine standing face-to-face with them explaining why you're letting it go, why you're being apathetic, why you're being lily-livered, for the lack of a better term? Why aren't you stepping up? Why? And you would have to look them in the eye and tell them why you're doing what you're doing or not doing anything. Why is that? I mean, I would proudly be able to stand arm in arm with my ancestors to do that. I mean, we've been doing it. We've been doing it for a long time. And yes, we're doing it civilly, but at some point, civility is going to go out the window.
Yeah, that, to me, I'm amazed that people have restrained themselves as much as they have at this point. I am absolutely amazed, and it shows the integrity of the American citizen. And
because they know once you go there, there's no going back.
Right.
They know that. And they, meaning all of us that are fighting the fight, we know that once you step over that line, there is no recovery from it.
Absolutely right.
And those who are doing that, stepping over the line, as you could see throughout the country over the last couple of years with burning of cities and all this other stuff, who's driving that force? These people that are allowed to live in our country, that are worth billions of dollars, that are paying for all these clowns to be out there and terrorists to be out there doing what they're doing. Why are they allowed to stay in our country? Send them back to their home country where they would be properly taken care of.
People in the counties, and it's the young moms. I mean, young moms.
Yeah. Stay out of their way. Just be behind them and
all the
support
moms. There's all the moms, and there's all the moms and the grandmothers are really standing up. It's kind of when you go to a board of supervisors meeting, or you in just about any county, it's running rampant.
Yep.
The calls in the back, the anger in the back is always a lady's voice, and I mean that in a very respectful, good way.
Absolutely.
They are amazing. They're standing up. I saw a young lady who is just, in fact, we interviewed her, and she had her baby in a backpack.
Oh, that was awesome.
And she was great. And she just said, my baby will never wear a mask. I want my baby. And she'd lean over and show her baby.
To the
board of
face to the board.
supervisors.
Yep.
And then she'd say, I want my baby to see my face.
Right.
So my baby recognizes me, the mother who's nurturing him.
Right.
And it was just so great. And she was just so strong.
Yep.
And so articulate.
Very articulate.
And, you look at this and you're going, I mean, here we have these, 20-something, 30-something young moms that come up there. One woman that really impressed me at a Board of Supervisors meeting was a lady who was a teacher, and they decided to pull her kids in homeschool. But she said, I sat there. I tried to get along. But then there was just rule after rule, mandate after mandate. I tried to get along. I thought maybe if I just tried to get along, everything would be fine. Everything would stop. It would be fine. But it never stopped.
No.
Totally out of her comfort zone. Totally out of her comfort zone. That's a hero.
That's right.
And those people are standing up. I think that the men need to get up there and stand up. Guys like Mike Ware, who are tireless at this. I mean, there's just a lot of good young men too.
Right.
When you look at a young nurse, young to me, Arthur Gorman, and his wife Katie. What a great couple they are.
Yeah.
Teacher and nurse, and he is just so articulate and strong in his conviction on where he is. He understands his body. He understands a lot of medical processes more than the layman does, and he's chosen not to get a vaccine. Mm-hmm. And there's so many teachers and so many of these young people that understand it's not even an argument against the vaccine. You just can't make me do it. This is my body. Look at Aaron Rodgers. You've got a quarterback for the Green Bay Packers that says, wait a second here,
Yeah.
And then you have guys around him that are all getting vaccinated that are getting COVID. So if you get vaccinated, you get COVID anyway. I mean, the Saints couldn't even field the coaching staff a couple of weeks ago because they all got COVID, but they were vaccinated. I mean, how dumb are we?
Makes zero sense.
How dumb?
Makes zero sense.
I mean, it's whether we're going to be sheep or whether we're going to stand up.
Right.
And I think that America is waking up. It is a big boat to turn, that's for sure.
Well, on this boat, we have the most precious cargo we are ever entrusted with by God.
Yep.
Our children.
Yep.
The most precious cargo. And I recall a boat saving a lot of things, lives back in the day. Noah built a boat. So the boat that we're working, and we're not comparing it, not using it, I'm just using an analogy. You just said a boat, so I'm going to say a boat. But the most precious cargo on that boat is our children. They will always be the most precious. So why would we force them to have something that has not been proven and has proven to cause harm to adults and to some other children too? I mean, we have vax-injured children and adults. We know that. They've proven that. They've said that. They, meaning the health industry. They've said that over and over again. And what happens then when we start having all these vax-injured people? They're going to become...
Do you mean side effects?
Well, side effects that can be debilitating where they can't operate in society.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe they can't speak, they can't walk, they can't talk. They have to have 24-hour care. At some point, society is going to have to pay for all that. And then what happens then? We're going to run out of money. We're going to run out of resources to do that. And that, to me, is more heartbreaking than anything, is that we take these perfectly healthy bodies, whether they're adult or children, and we put this garbage into their body. And then all of a sudden now, at the flip of a switch, or something happens within their body and that chemical, I don't know what, juice, something happens, and then all of a sudden now they are not who they used to be. They are something new and different, but it's not who they were or who they were going to be. It puts the skids on it right then and there. And that makes me so sad for all of them, for everybody, adults alike. I mean, because our bodies, as we progress, we get sick, we build up antibodies to whatever it is we were sick from. They've said that over and over again. I'm not a scientist. I'm not going to claim to be one. But I know what I hear, and I understand what I hear and what I've read, and from trustworthy people that are in the industries. You know, when you're talking about endocrinologists talking about things and they use the terms and then they break it down and make it into layman's terms so I can understand it. You know, if you get sick, you're going to build up antibodies. Okay, I understand that. And if you get sick with this, you're going to build up antibodies. There are certain things that you can't or your body won't build antibodies to, and that's where a vaccination would come into play. Okay, well then that's where you would be safe.
It's not even a vaccination.
Well, and then those are proven vaccines
right.
that have historical data and historical proof to work. Those I'm okay with. This other stuff that they're shooting into everybody, not on your life. No way, Jose. Not going to happen.
And the lack of accountability when
right.
it comes to the pharmaceutical companies that put
right.
these out. I mean, they're
just making
not
billions
liable.
and billions of dollars, which are feeding into the New World Order, if you will, if you want to go off on that. They're just paying for more of that, more control, so they can control more and more and more. That's all they're doing. And they're getting the money from we, the taxpayers, because they say, oh, no, it's free. No, it's not free. Who's paying for it? Oh, the government. The government's paying for it. Okay, the government's paying for it because they're getting money from us. We are the government. They're getting government money to create all this stuff and to pay for it and to get it out there. And we're doing it. Our tax dollars are paying for it for other countries as well that don't have money, that truly do not have money. You know, some of these African countries, you know who's paying for it? We are. The taxpayers of the United States. We pay for everything.
And remember the key word, United States. States meaning country.
Meaning country.
That's right. So
each state is a sovereign country.
Yes. And when
it's united as the states of the Union.
That's right. And when we get Jefferson and the other states that'll be brought about
mm-hmm.
by better apportionment, for better apportionment, and these states that'll be brought about will have control
right.
over a lot more things than they do now.
Absolutely.
And again, you know, we'll talk a little bit more about the equal footing doctrine next week. We'll talk about the State of Jefferson Constitution. Again, we're hoping to get Janet Chandler here,
mm-hmm.
live in studio.
There you go.
And we'll start doing a process of breaking down some really important points of the Jefferson Constitution. And I can't wait to do that because there's a lot of things that, oh, and by the way, when we did this Constitution, it is constitutional.
Yes.
Meaning it's constitutional complying with the federal Constitution.
Correct.
And so the beauty of that is that there are some things that maybe you may not agree with everything in it. No one's ever going to agree with everything in it. But is everything in it valid and palatable? And I think that's the main thing we have to look at.
And it's constitutional under the federal Constitution.
Under the federal Constitution.
Yes.
Yep.
Yes.
Well, with that, my friend, we're winding down here.
Mm-hmm.
This has been another episode of Jefferson State of Mind, MINE. You can catch us on Mountaintop Media. You can catch us on Facebook. You can catch us on Apple Podcast, and Spotify.
Yep.
I don't know if you can catch us on Rumble yet. We're going to have to. Not on Rumble yet, but it will be. The voice I hear in my ears is Eli, our great soundboard producer in there, who's been wonderful helping us out here. So with that, time has come, my good friend.
For 51.
Yep. Let's get it done.
Amen.
Come out and play. Have you seen the bill we all have to pay? It's not our bill. We had no say. You don't serve us, you serve LA. The time has come for 51 in a Jefferson state of mind. You don't know us, You have no clue, and still you're telling us what to do. We don't know you or what you face. It's time to start a brand new state. The time has come for 51 in a Jefferson